Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I still remember the exact sound of my heels on the hotel hallway floor. Click, 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 echoing louder than my heartbeat. I wasn't supposed to be there. At least not unannounced. But something felt off. You know that strange tug in your gut when your heart whispers that something isn't right? That night, I followed that feeling all the way to room 709. My fiancé, David, had said he was working late, again. Only this time, I decided to check for myself. I never imagined what I was about to see. David and I were just months away from getting married. Our wedding invitations were already out. His mother had picked the flowers, and I had just chosen my dress. We'd been through so much together: long-distance love, moving cities, starting fresh. He was my best friend, my everything. But relationships, even the strongest ones, have shadows. And sometimes, those shadows hide more than we're ready to see. As I stood at the door, hand trembling over the handle, I debated walking away. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe he really was just catching up on work. But then I heard laughter. A woman's laughter. It was soft, flirtatious, and definitely not coming from the TV. My stomach flipped. I slowly opened the door, unlocked, and there he was, David, sitting on the edge of the bed. And next to him, a woman. Blonde. Elegant. She looked like she stepped out of a perfume commercial. A white Russian, sipping something from a glass and smiling like she belonged there. I froze. My heart didn't know whether to shatter or scream. David didn't see me right away. But when he did, his face went pale, like someone had switched off the light in his eyes. And in that second, I saw a version of him I never knew existed. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a secret life I hadn't been invited to. But what happened next wasn't what I expected. And that's where things get complicated. Because love, trust, and betrayal aren't always black and white. Sometimes, the truth comes wrapped in feelings we don't know how to handle. And sometimes, the person you love the most can surprise you in the most heartbreaking, yet strangely human, ways. So what would you do if you were in my shoes? Walk out? Scream? Or stay long enough to hear the truth, no matter how painful it might be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was it just a mistake, or was this something deeper? If you've ever found yourself at a crossroads in a relationship, I want to hear your story too. And trust me, what happened after that hotel room moment is something you won't want to miss. To be continued. I stood there, frozen, while the hotel room's soft lighting made everything feel more surreal, like I had stepped into a scene I was never meant to see. David didn't move. Neither did she. The woman glanced at me, confused at first, then offered a polite, unreadable smile. I couldn't tell if it was innocent or smug. David stood up slowly, as if any sudden move might shatter what little remained between us. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, those 5 words that somehow always mean it's exactly what it looks like. But what did it look like? 2 people in a hotel room, late at night, sharing drinks, dressed a little too casually for business. And why hadn't he told me about her? Who was she? A coworker? A friend? Something more? Everything in my mind was spinning, but my feet stayed glued to the floor. I didn't want to cry. Not yet. I needed answers before the emotions came flooding in. I just stared at him, hoping his eyes would give me the truth that his lips couldn't. David tried to explain. Said her name was Elena. Said she was a client, visiting from Moscow, that the meeting ran late and they decided to talk in his hotel room because the lounge was closed. But why didn't he text me? Why hide it? Why did she look so comfortable, like this wasn't the first time she'd been there? I felt every inch of our relationship tighten and pull, memories rushing in like waves. The time he surprised me with a weekend trip. The night he held my hand after my father passed. All the promises. The laughter. The way he always knew how to calm me down with just a look. Were those moments real, or just part of some story he told to keep me close while he lived another life behind hotel doors? Elena excused herself quietly, taking her glass with her as she stepped into the bathroom, leaving us alone with the silence that felt louder than her presence. David reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I need the truth," I said softly, not ready for an answer, but needing one anyway. And yet, something in his expression, something unspoken, made me hesitate. Was this really betrayal, or something far more complicated? Let me know in the comments, would you believe him? Or walk away before hearing another word? I couldn't move, but my heart did. It raced, throbbed, stumbled. David stood in front of me, like a stranger wearing a familiar face. The room was quiet now. Too quiet. I could hear the faint drip of the bathroom faucet behind the door Elena had disappeared through. She hadn't said much, but her silence had spoken volumes. There was something there. Something more than what David was willing to admit. And still, I didn't leave. David finally spoke again. "I should have told you," he said, his voice low, ashamed. "But I didn't want to worry you." That word, worry, felt wrong. What he should have said was hurt. Because that's what this was. A hurt that came out of nowhere, and yet deep down, maybe I had seen it coming. I started thinking back to the last few weeks. How often he looked at his phone and then looked away. How he was more distracted, more distant. I'd convinced myself it was just work stress. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe this had been going on longer than I realized. The way he said Elena's name, like he knew her well. Too well. Maybe she wasn't just a client. Maybe she was a habit. I asked him, "Have you been honest with me? About everything?" And that question hung in the air like smoke, thick and impossible to ignore. He hesitated, and that hesitation said more than any answer ever could. There's a strange kind of heartbreak that doesn't explode but quietly sinks into your chest. That's what I felt in that moment. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe in us. But I also couldn't ignore what I'd seen, and what I hadn't. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, the light went off, and Elena stepped back into the room. She didn't look at me. She looked straight at David, her face unreadable. She spoke softly, her accent rich and smooth. "I think I should go." And just like that, she picked up her coat and walked out without waiting for him to say goodbye. The door clicked shut behind her, and suddenly it was just us. But it didn't feel like us anymore. It felt like a broken version of what we used to be. He reached for me again, but I stepped back. My mind was racing. Was I about to throw away years of love over a single night? Or had he already thrown it away without telling me? And then, he dropped something I wasn't ready for. "She came here looking for help," he said. "She's in trouble," and I couldn't turn my back. That just made things more confusing. Help with what? Why was it such a secret? Before I could ask more, my phone buzzed in my hand. It was a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence, "You don't know the whole story." And now, neither did I. What do you think is really going on? Is David hiding more than he's letting on, or is this all just a big misunderstanding? Should I believe him, or should I dig deeper? Comment your thoughts below and tell me what you would do next. The message on my phone kept replaying in my mind. "You don't know the whole story." My fingers trembled as I held the screen, eyes darting between David and the closed door Elena had just walked through. My world, once so sure and familiar, now felt like it was full of hidden corners and quiet lies. I didn't know who sent the message, but it was clear, someone was watching. Someone who knew something I didn't. David noticed the change in my face. "What is it?" he asked, but I didn't answer. Instead, I stared at him, really stared, like I was seeing him for the first time. His voice, once my comfort, now sounded like a riddle I couldn't solve. I needed air. I needed space. But I also needed to understand what I had walked into tonight. I asked him again, "Who is she, really?" His jaw tightened. "She was in danger," he said. "And I was trying to help without getting you involved. I didn't want to scare you." But he still wasn't saying what kind of danger. And why tonight? Why a hotel room? Why the secrecy? He finally admitted, "She's involved in something complicated. There are people watching her, and now, maybe us." My stomach dropped. Was this just infidelity dressed in mystery? Or had I stumbled into something bigger than either of us could handle? Outside, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Deliberate. Then they stopped, right outside our door. Neither of us moved. We just listened. A soft knock followed, not loud, but intentional. David motioned for me to stay back, but I shook my head and stood beside him. If this was my life now, I wanted the truth, not half shadows and broken trust. He opened the door just a crack. A man in a black jacket stood there, tall and sharp-eyed, like he'd walked out of a crime movie. He didn't try to come in. He just said one thing, "You're not safe here anymore." Then he turned and walked away. David slammed the door and locked it. I backed away, heartbeat thudding in my ears. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered. He looked at me, and for once, he had no answer. I picked up my bag. "I'm leaving. I can't do this unless I know everything. Right now." That's when David said something that made me stop cold. "If you walk out now, you might never understand why I did all this for you." For me? My heart caught in my chest. What did that even mean? How was I connected to any of this? And why did Elena look at me the way she did, as if I was the one intruding? So many questions. So many secrets. No answers. Not yet. But one thing was clear, the truth was just inches away, and it might change everything. What do you think is really going on? Is David a liar, or someone trying to protect something much bigger than himself? Should I stay and dig deeper, or run before it's too late? Drop your theories in the comments. I didn't leave. Not yet. Something in David's voice, low, steady, but laced with fear, made me freeze. "I did this for you." Those words spun around in my head like a broken record. How was any of this for me? A hotel room, a Russian woman, a stranger knocking with warnings. It all felt like a bad dream I hadn't woken up from yet. And now, this strange man shows up, warns us we're not safe, then vanishes like smoke. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't walk away without knowing what he meant. David pulled out his phone and opened a hidden folder I'd never seen before. Photos, screenshots, messages, some in English, some in Russian. He said, "Elena is being watched because she came across something dangerous at her job. She reached out to me because I'm the only person she trusted in the US. Her life's in danger. And now, yours might be too." I stared at the screen, unable to process. He continued, "2 nights ago, someone tried to follow her. She called me in a panic. I brought her here to keep her hidden for a few hours, that's it." His hands were shaking now. I'd never seen him like this, not even during our worst arguments. He looked scared. Not of me, but of something outside this room. And that scared me even more. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a video. No sender. Just a clip. I tapped play. It was grainy surveillance footage, taken from outside our apartment. It showed me, leaving that morning. Then, a second later, another figure appeared behind me. A man in a hoodie. He didn't follow me. He just stood there, watching. My breath caught in my throat. David snatched the phone from my hand and cursed under his breath. "They're watching you now," he whispered. I sank onto the edge of the bed. My world felt like it was shrinking. Everything I thought I knew about David, about our relationship, was now tangled in something bigger. Darker. And now, I was part of it whether I wanted to be or not. But just as I began to ask who had sent the video, the hotel phone rang. David and I stared at each other before he picked up. The voice on the other end spoke in perfect English with a calm tone. "You have 1 hour to decide who she is to you. After that, you both disappear." He hung up without another word. I felt my pulse in my throat. "What do they mean?" I asked, barely able to speak. David looked at me, eyes clouded with something I couldn't name. "Because they don't believe you're just my fiancé." Just like that, the second twist hit harder than the first. Now I wasn't sure if I was part of his love story, or just a cover for something far more dangerous. What would you do now? Would you run? Confront him? Or try to uncover the full truth before time runs out? Comment your thoughts. I need to know I'm not the only one wondering what's really going on. We didn't speak for the next minute. The hotel room felt colder somehow, though nothing had changed except the weight in the air. The call had made one thing clear: someone believed I wasn't just David's fiancé. That I was more. Or maybe, less. I looked at him, searching for some sign that he'd been lying to me all along. But his face showed something else: fear, yes, but also guilt. The kind that builds up from years of keeping something buried. "I didn't tell you everything," David finally admitted. "When we met, I wasn't just working in finance. I was doing side work, covert data recovery for private clients. Elena was one of them. What she stumbled onto wasn't just personal, it was government level. Names, transfers, bribes, people being watched, controlled. She came to me because she had no one else." "And me?" I asked, barely whispering. "You were real," he said, stepping closer. "You were the first real thing in my life. But I couldn't risk telling you the truth. Not until tonight." Everything clicked into place. The late nights, the distant mood, the strange calls. All of it had been tangled in something much bigger than I ever imagined. But as he spoke, his phone buzzed again, this time with GPS coordinates. One location. No message. "We have to go," he said. "They're not giving us a choice anymore." We rushed to the address, a quiet industrial building on the edge of the city. Inside, Elena was waiting. She looked calm, almost too calm. She glanced at me, then David. "You made the right decision," she said. "Now she needs to know." David turned to me, his voice steady but soft. "You're in their files too. That's why they're watching you now. Your father worked for them years ago, before he died. He kept secrets. Some of them are buried under your name." My knees went weak. I barely remembered my father. He passed when I was young. But now, suddenly, I was a part of this. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked. Elena held up a drive. "Because the ones who wanted this secret buried are still out there. And now they know you're alive." Before I could respond, the lights in the warehouse flickered. Then cut out. Darkness. A voice echoed from the shadows, familiar, sharp. "Didn't think we'd let you walk away that easy." The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. What would you do now? Run, fight, or surrender to the truth? Drop your final guesses in the comments before the next episode drops. Everything moved in slow motion. The voice from the shadows pulled all air from the room, and I felt David tense beside me. Elena didn't flinch. It was like she expected this. The emergency lights kicked in, casting a dim red glow across the warehouse. A figure stepped forward, tall, older, sharp eyes behind glasses. He looked directly at me. "Your father was one of us," he said. "And now you're holding something that could destroy everything we built." Elena held up the flash drive. "She has a right to know the truth," she said. "She's not the enemy." The man took a step closer, but David stepped between us. "It's over. We're not running anymore." There was silence. Then, something shifted in the man's eyes. "You think exposing this will bring justice?" he asked. "It'll only bring chaos." I didn't respond. I was tired, of the secrets, of the fear, of not knowing who I was in the middle of all this. I took the drive from Elena's hand. "Then let the world decide," I said. "They didn't stop us. Maybe they couldn't. Or maybe, they knew it was time." Days later, after the footage and files were leaked to the right people, everything changed. David and I went into protective custody for a while. Elena disappeared, no trace, no messages. Just gone. Maybe she finally found peace. Maybe she was still running. And me? I found answers. About my father. About what he did. And about who I was, now that the lies were stripped away. David and I didn't go back to normal. How could we? But we started over. This time with no secrets. It wasn't easy. Trust takes time. But love, when it survives fire, becomes something stronger. Something real. Sometimes, the truth breaks you. But sometimes, it's the only thing that sets you free. Let me know in the comments, how did this story make you feel? Would you forgive David? Should we follow Elena's trail for a sequel? I'd love to hear what you think.